In a galaxy teeming with powerful civilizations, Earth was seen as nothing more than a quiet, peaceful species. No threat, no ambition, just a speck in the vast cosmic expanse. When the Galactic Federation first encountered humanity, they offered us protection, believing we were weak and naive. But beneath the surface, a hidden storm was brewing. As we studied their advanced technologies and honed our own skills, we prepared for something they never saw coming. Now, the quiet species is about to make their first move, and the galaxy will never be the same. First light on a blue, whirled the exploration vessel Zenith's edge drifted silently through the vast emptiness of space, its hull gleaming like polished silver against the backdrop of distant stars. Captain Thexera stood on the command deck, her tall frame casting a shadow across the control panels. As a member of the Corvani species, she possessed the characteristic blue-gray skin and elongated limbs that marked her people as one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Her large, dark eyes reflected the wisdom of 1,000 explored worlds. "Captain, we're approaching the third planet of this system," announced Navigation Officer Veltar, his six-fingered hands dancing across the holographic display. "Initial scans show a remarkable discovery." Thexera moved closer to examine the readings. Before them hung a beautiful blue and green world, swirled with white clouds and dotted with vast oceans. Life signs, she inquired, though the answer was already becoming clear from the data streaming across her screens. "Abundant, Captain. But what's most interesting is the presence of a technological civilization. They appear to be in their early space age, with primitive satellites and basic orbital infrastructure." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. In their 3 centuries of exploration, the Corvani had encountered only a handful of species that had achieved spaceflight independently. Most civilizations either destroyed themselves before reaching the stars or were discovered and guided by more advanced races. Science Officer Nixella, her silver hair catching the light from the displays, looked up from her analysis station. "Captain, you need to see this. These beings, they call themselves humans, are unlike anything in our databases. Their physiology is remarkably fragile by galactic standards, yet they've somehow managed to develop nuclear technology and basic space travel." Thexera studied the biological scans with growing fascination. The humans were small, averaging only 6 feet in height with soft skin and no natural armor or weapons. Their bones were relatively weak, their muscles limited, and their lifespans remarkably short by galactic standards. How did such a vulnerable species survive long enough to develop technology? She wondered aloud. "That's the most intriguing part," Nixella continued, excitement evident in her voice. "Their planet is extraordinarily hostile. Multiple climate zones, violent weather patterns, predatory animals, volcanic activity, and frequent natural disasters. By all logic, they should have gone extinct millions of years ago." Officer Veltar pulled up additional data. "Their society is equally puzzling, Captain. They've divided themselves into hundreds of separate nations and have a history of almost constant warfare. Yet somehow, they've also developed remarkable art, music, literature, and scientific achievements. They're contradictory in every way." As the Zenith's edge maintained its position outside the planet's detection range, the crew continued their observations. They watched as humans went about their daily lives, completely unaware that they were being studied by beings from across the galaxy. The aliens observed human cities, their transportation systems, their entertainment, and their social structures. "Their technology is primitive but ingenious," reported Chief Engineer Zor-ADH, his 4 arms working multiple control surfaces simultaneously. "They use combustion engines, chemical rockets, and basic electronics. Nothing that poses any threat to galactic civilization, but remarkably clever, given their limitations." Captain Thexera made her decision. "Open a channel to the Galactic Federation Council. We have a new species to report." The Great Council of the Federation Council Chamber on the capital world of Nexus Prime was a sight to behold. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the massive circular amphitheater, each delegation seated according to their world's position in the galactic community. The chamber itself was a marvel of architecture, with crystalline walls that seemed to pulse with their own inner light and a ceiling that displayed real-time images of the galaxy itself. High Chancellor Mordun of the Altari Federation called the session to order. His people were among the oldest in the galaxy, having achieved interstellar travel over 10,000 years ago. His elongated frame and golden skin commanded respect from all present. We are here to discuss the report from Captain Thexera regarding a newly discovered species on the world they designate as Earth, Mordun announced, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. Captain, please present your findings. Thexera stood at the central podium, activating the holographic display that showed Earth and its inhabitants. Honored council members, we have discovered a species that challenges our understanding of galactic development. The humans of Earth have achieved basic spaceflight despite being perhaps the most physically vulnerable intelligent species ever encountered. Murmurs rippled through the assembly as the display showed images of humans going about their daily lives. Representative Caxel of the Wardani Collective, a species known for their military prowess, leaned forward with interest. These creatures look hardly capable of surviving their own planet, let alone developing technology. What threat assessment have you prepared? None whatsoever, Thexera replied confidently. Human technology is centuries behind our most basic systems. Their weapons are crude, chemical explosives, and metal projectiles. Their fastest ships barely achieve 1% of light speed. They pose no military threat to any galactic civilization. Science advisor Yiloff, whose crystalline form refracted light in beautiful patterns, added her analysis. The humans demonstrate remarkable adaptability and problem-solving abilities. However, their aggressive tendencies toward their own species suggest they would benefit greatly from guidance and protection. Left to their own devices, they may well destroy themselves within a few centuries. The debate continued for hours as representatives discussed what should be done about this new discovery. Some argued for minimal contact, allowing the humans to develop naturally. Others suggested more direct intervention to prevent them from destroying themselves or their planet. Finally, Chancellor Mordun called for a decision. The consensus appears clear. We will offer the humans membership in the Federation as a protected species. They will receive our guidance and protection in exchange for contributing their unique perspectives and capabilities to our civilization. Representative Vexera of the Scientific Coalition raised a concern. Should we not be more cautious? Even primitive species have occasionally surprised us with unexpected capabilities. Vexera addressed the concern directly. With respect, Representative, I've spent months studying these humans. They are remarkable in their persistence and creativity, but they are fundamentally limited by their biology and primitive technology. They will be grateful for our protection and eager to learn from their betters. The message the radio telescope arrays scattered across Earth had been listening to the cosmos for decades, searching for signs of intelligent life among the stars. On a quiet Tuesday morning, that search finally yielded results beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Dr. Sarah Chun was reviewing the previous night's data at the Arecibo Observatory when her computer flagged an anomalous signal. The pattern was clearly artificial, structured in mathematical sequences that no natural phenomenon could produce. Her hands trembled as she verified the readings, double-checking and triple-checking before reaching for a phone. Within hours, the world's leading scientists, linguists, and government officials were gathered in secure facilities, analyzing the message that would change human civilization forever. The signal contained basic mathematical concepts, followed by increasingly complex information about galactic civilization technology, and an invitation to join a vast community of spacefaring species. President Rebecca Martinez stood in the Situation Room, surrounded by her top advisors and the world's leading experts on extraterrestrial intelligence. The decoded message played on the main screen, its contents simultaneously thrilling and terrifying. "They're offering us protection," summarized Dr. James Wright, the chief linguist who had worked around the clock to decode the alien language. According to this message, space is dangerous for young civilizations like ours. They're inviting us to join something called the Galactic Federation as a protected world. Secretary of Defense General Michael Torres studied the technical specifications included in the message. The aliens had casually mentioned technologies that were centuries beyond human capability. Force fields, faster-than-light travel, energy weapons that could destroy planets. The gap between their technology and ours is staggering. He admitted, if they wanted to conquer us, we'd be powerless to stop them. Director of the CIA Helen Foster leaned forward, her expression thoughtful. That's exactly why this offer concerns me. Why would such advanced beings offer to protect us? What do they gain from the arrangement? Dr. Chun, who had discovered the signal, offered her perspective. Perhaps they're genuinely benevolent. Some species might naturally evolve past the need for conquest and aggression. They could be offering protection out of pure altruism. President Martinez weighed the options carefully. The message had included coordinates for a meeting location in space, along with basic plans for a communication device that would allow real-time contact with the Federation. What choice do we really have? She asked the room. If we refuse, we remain alone and vulnerable. If we accept, we gain access to technologies and knowledge that could solve every problem facing humanity. The discussion continued late into the night, with experts debating every aspect of the alien offer. Some worried about losing human independence and becoming subordinate to alien masters. Others argued that cooperation with advanced aliens was humanity's best hope for survival and prosperity. The secret preparation while the public debated and world leaders prepared for open contact with the aliens, a different kind of preparation was taking place in the shadows. In underground facilities and secret military installations around the world, a small group of individuals were asking very different questions about humanity's new galactic neighbors. Admiral David Harrison stood in the command center of a facility that officially didn't exist, buried deep beneath the Nevada desert. On the screens around him, his team analyzed every detail of the alien message with the paranoia and suspicion that had kept humanity alive through countless conflicts. They call us primitive, noted Dr. Amanda Foster, a physicist who had been pulled from her research at MIT for this classified project. But look at how they describe their own technology. Energy shields, plasma weapons, antimatter drives. All of these things follow principles we already understand. They're advanced, not magical. Colonel Lisa Parker, formerly of Special Operations Command, studied the tactical implications. Notice what they don't mention. No discussion of cybersecurity, electronic warfare, or asymmetric tactics. Their message reads like it was written by a civilization that hasn't fought a real war in thousands of years. The team had been working around the clock since the alien message arrived, not to prepare for peaceful contact, but to prepare for the possibility that peace might not last forever. They analyzed every piece of technology described in the alien communication, looking for weaknesses and vulnerabilities that might be exploited if necessary. Their energy shields work by deflecting directed energy weapons, Dr. Foster explained as she highlighted sections of the alien technical data. But there's no mention of protection against kinetic projectiles. They might have simply forgotten about older technologies because they stopped using them. Admiral Harrison nodded grimly. The message also mentions their surprise at our aggressive tendencies toward our own species. They seem to view our history of warfare as a primitive phase to be outgrown. They don't understand that our conflicts have made us very good at fighting. The project, codenamed Operation Looking Glass, had a simple mandate: prepare humanity for the possibility that their new alien friends might not remain friendly forever. While diplomats prepared for peaceful contact, soldiers and scientists worked to ensure that humanity would not be helpless if that peace failed. We're going to accept their offer, Harrison told his team. Our leaders have made that decision, and it's probably the right one. But we're going to be ready for anything that comes after. Neither the aliens nor most of humanity knew about Operation Looking Glass. That secrecy would prove to be the most important decision in human history. The stage was set for humanity's entry into the galaxy, but not in the way anyone expected. The aliens believed they were rescuing a grateful primitive species. Humanity's leaders hoped for peaceful cooperation and technological advancement. Only a small group of humans suspected that this first contact might be the beginning of the greatest challenge their species had ever faced. The universe was about to discover that there was much more to humanity than met the eye. The integration 6 months after first contact, human ambassadors walked the gleaming corridors of Nexus Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Federation. To the aliens who observed them, the humans appeared exactly as expected, grateful, humble, and eager to learn from their more advanced neighbors. What the aliens didn't see were the tiny recording devices hidden in human clothing, the careful mental notes being taken of every security protocol, and the subtle questions designed to extract maximum information. Ambassador Thomas Reed smiled warmly as he was escorted through the Federation's Central Military Command by General Caxel of the Wardani Collective. The alien general stood nearly 8 feet tall, his armored carapace gleaming under the artificial lights, completely confident in his superiority over the small human walking beside him. "Your people are fortunate that we discovered you when we did," Caxel rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. "The galaxy is full of dangers that would have destroyed your species within decades. The Void Hunters alone have eliminated 17 primitive civilizations in the past century." Thomas nodded respectfully, playing his role perfectly. "We are deeply grateful for the Federation's protection, General. We hope that someday we might be able to contribute something meaningful to galactic civilization." Caxel's laugh was like rocks tumbling down a mountainside. "Perhaps in a few thousand years, Ambassador. For now, your people's eagerness to help is contribution enough." What the alien general didn't know was that Thomas Reed had graduated first in his class from West Point, served 3 tours in special operations, and spoke fluent Mandarin, Arabic, and Russian. The humble human diplomat was actually cataloging every weapon system, defensive position, and tactical weakness he observed in the Federation's most secure facility. As they passed through the command center, Thomas watched alien officers managing fleet deployments across dozens of star systems. The displays showed ship positions, patrol routes, and communication protocols in real time. To the aliens, this information was routine operational data. To Thomas, it was intelligence gold. "Your fleet coordination is impressive," Thomas commented innocently. "How do you manage communication across such vast distances?" "Quantum entanglement networks," Caxel replied proudly. "Instantaneous communication across any distance. One of our greatest technological achievements." Thomas filed away every detail about the quantum communication hubs he could see on the displays. Back on Earth, teams of physicists and engineers were already working on countermeasures for technologies they hadn't even seen yet, based on intelligence gathered by human agents across the galaxy. The integration program had placed over 10,000 humans on alien worlds within the first year of contact. To the Federation, these humans were exactly what they appeared to be: workers, students, and researchers eager to contribute their limited skills to galactic civilization. In reality, every single human had been carefully selected and trained for intelligence gathering. Dr. Maria Santos worked in the crystalline laboratories of the Yiloth Scientific Collective, her small human hands perfect for the delicate work of calibrating their quantum computers. The crystal beings who supervised her work considered her presence a charming novelty, a primitive creature playing at advanced science. "Fascinating how you approach these problems," commented Research Director Silera, her crystalline form refracting light in beautiful patterns. "Your solutions are so direct. We would never think to use such simple methods." Maria smiled as she continued her work, carefully studying the quantum processing cores that powered Yiloth technology. "We humans have always had to make do with simpler approaches. We find that sometimes the most obvious solution is the best one." What Silera didn't realize was that Maria had 3 PhDs in quantum physics and had been one of Earth's leading researchers in quantum computing before volunteering for the integration program. Every simple solution she provided was actually a carefully crafted method of learning how Yiloth technology worked. Information that was being transmitted back to Earth through hidden quantum transmitters, the humans had learned their lesson from history. Every successful resistance movement had begun with intelligence gathering, and humanity was gathering intelligence on a scale never before attempted. They were cataloging the strengths and weaknesses of dozens of alien species, mapping their technological capabilities, and identifying critical vulnerabilities in the Federation's infrastructure. The network deep beneath the surface of Earth, in a facility that didn't appear on any official records, Admiral Harrison reviewed reports from human agents across the galaxy. The intelligence picture that emerged was both encouraging and terrifying. The Federation controls over 3,000 star systems, reported Colonel Parker as she updated the strategic assessment. But their military is spread incredibly thin. They're so confident in their technological superiority that they've forgotten basic principles of defense in depth. Dr. Foster pulled up technical schematics on the main display. Their energy weapons are devastating against targets that try to absorb or deflect the energy. But they're vulnerable to materials that simply let the energy pass through. We've identified 17 different alien technologies that could be defeated with variations on our stealth technology. The intelligence network that humanity had built was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Traditional espionage relied on agents trying to blend in among the target population. But humans were so obviously different from any alien species that they were effectively invisible. The aliens saw them exactly as what they appeared to be: harmless primitives who couldn't possibly understand advanced galactic technology. Agent Martinez reports from the Corvani shipyards, continued Parker, reading from the latest intelligence summary. She's gained access to the technical specifications for their newest battleships. The designs are impressive, but they have a critical vulnerability in their power distribution systems. Admiral Harrison studied the data with the eye of someone who had spent decades preparing for conflicts that might never come. What's our timeline for completing the intelligence gathering phase? Another 6 months should give us complete technical specifications for all major Federation technologies, Foster replied. Our agents are being careful not to arouse suspicion, but the aliens are so confident in their superiority that they're remarkably careless with sensitive information. The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the room. The Federation's own arrogance was providing humanity with the intelligence needed to potentially defeat them. By treating humans as harmless primitives, the aliens were giving them access to secrets that no enemy species had ever obtained at IN research facilities hidden across Earth's solar system. Human scientists worked around the clock to understand and improve upon alien technologies. The asteroid belt had been quietly militarized, with weapons platforms disguised as mining operations. The moon's far side hosted manufacturing facilities that produced equipment using principles reverse-engineered from alien technology. The fusion reactor designs we obtained from the Altari are actually less efficient than what we've developed, reported Dr. Serchin during a classified briefing. Their technology focused on stability over output. Our new reactors produce 3 times more energy and are more compact. What about their weapons? Asked General Torres, who had been promoted to oversee Earth's military preparations. Mixed results. Chin continued. Their energy weapons are powerful but predictable. They're designed to fight other energy-based weapons systems. Our kinetic weapons should be highly effective against their defenses. The human military-industrial complex had undergone a revolution. Factories that had once produced consumer goods now manufactured advanced weapon systems. Universities that had taught theoretical physics now trained students in practical applications of alien technology. The entire species was quietly preparing for a conflict that most of them didn't even know was possible. The test came sooner than anyone expected. The Ravagers were a nomadic species that had terrorized the galaxy's outer rim for centuries, raiding undefended worlds and disappearing before Federation forces could respond. They were exactly the kind of threat that the Federation had promised to protect humanity from. When their fleet appeared in the outskirts of a sol system, it seemed like a perfect opportunity for the Federation to demonstrate their protective capabilities. What nobody expected was that the human colony on Titan would refuse to evacuate. "This is Admiral Vexthor of the Federation Fifth Fleet," came the transmission to the Titan colony. "You must evacuate immediately. Ravager forces are approaching your position." Colony Administrator Janet Foster, who happened to be Dr. Amanda Foster's sister, responded calmly from the colony's command center. "We appreciate your concern, Admiral, but we've decided to stay and defend our home." The response from the Federation fleet was immediate and incredulous. "Administrator Foster, you cannot be serious. Your colony has no military defenses. The Ravagers will destroy you in minutes." Janet smiled as she looked around the command center, where technicians were bringing online weapon systems that the Federation had no idea existed. "We humans have a saying, Admiral. Don't count us out until the fight is over." The Ravager fleet consisted of 12 warships, heavily armed and crewed by warriors who had been raiding defenseless colonies for generations. Their commander, Warlord Thakmor, was confident that this would be another easy victory. The human colony appeared completely defenseless, with no visible weapons or shields. "Prepare for orbital bombardment." Thakmor ordered his fleet. "We'll strip this world of anything valuable and leave the debris as a message to the Federation." The first Ravager ship moved into bombardment position, its weapons charging for the attack that would destroy the human colony. That's when the asteroid belt came alive. Hidden weapons platforms that had been disguised as mining equipment suddenly revealed their true nature. Railguns that fired projectiles at relativistic speeds opened fire on the Ravager fleet from multiple directions. The aliens had never encountered weapons that fired solid projectiles at such incredible velocities, and their energy shields were useless against the kinetic bombardment. "What are those weapons?" demanded Admiral Vexthor as he watched 3 Ravager ships explode in rapid succession. "Where did the humans get such technology?" The answer came from the Titan colony itself. Surface-based missile batteries, hidden beneath what appeared to be agricultural facilities, launched swarms of guided projectiles at the remaining Ravager ships. The missiles used guidance systems based on alien technology, but powered by human innovation, making them faster and more maneuverable than anything in the galactic arsenal. Warlord Thakmor watched his fleet being systematically destroyed by an enemy he couldn't even see properly. "Impossible. These are primitive creatures. They have no real military." His ship shook under the impact of another railgun projectile, this one penetrating his shields and armor as if they weren't there. The bridge erupted in sparks and smoke as critical systems failed. "All ships retreat," Thakmor ordered, but only 4 of his 12 ships were still capable of hyperspace travel. The others had been reduced to floating debris by weapons that shouldn't have existed. As the surviving Ravager ships fled the system, Admiral Vexthor found himself staring at a tactical display that made no sense. The primitive human colony had just defeated a Ravager fleet that should have destroyed them easily. Somehow, the harmless humans had revealed military capabilities that rivaled the Federation's own. "Get me a direct line to the Federation Council," Vexthor ordered his communications officer. "They need to know what just happened here." The revelation begins. The news of humanity's victory over the Ravager fleet spread through the Federation like wildfire. In council chambers and military headquarters across the galaxy, alien leaders struggled to understand how their primitive protégés had accomplished something that seasoned Federation fleets often failed to do. High Chancellor Mordun convened an emergency session of the Federation Council, demanding answers from anyone who might explain this impossible development. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the Great Chamber, all asking the same question: how had the humans hidden such advanced military capabilities? "It's impossible," insisted General Caxall, his confidence shaken for the first time in centuries. "I've personally inspected human facilities. They have primitive chemical rockets and basic nuclear weapons. Nothing that could threaten a Ravager fleet." Captain Thexera, who had discovered humanity, studied the battle reports with growing unease. The weapons' signatures were unlike anything in Federation databases, but there were familiar elements. Some of this technology appears to be based on our own designs, but modified in ways we never considered. Science advisor Yil-Atha's crystalline form flickered with nervous energy. The quantum signatures suggest that humans have been reverse engineering our technology. But that should be impossible. Their science is centuries behind ours. As the Council debated, reports continued to arrive from across the galaxy. Human workers and researchers who had seemed completely harmless were suddenly displaying knowledge and capabilities that their supervisors had never suspected. Simple laborers were offering solutions to complex engineering problems. Quiet researchers were proposing improvements to technologies that had been perfected thousands of years ago. The pattern was becoming clear to those who looked for it. Humanity had not been the grateful, primitive species they had appeared to be. They had been gathering intelligence, studying alien technology, and preparing for something that the Federation was only beginning to understand. On the Corvani homeworld, Chief Engineer Zor-ADH made a disturbing discovery in his shipyard's computer systems. The human workers have been accessing classified technical specifications, he reported to his superiors. Files that should have been completely secure have been copied and transmitted off-world. Similar reports came from facilities across the galaxy. Human agents who had seemed trustworthy and harmless had been systematically gathering intelligence on every aspect of alien technology and military capabilities. The scope of the deception was staggering. How long have they been planning this? Wondered Representative Vexera of the Scientific Coalition. How could we have been so completely deceived? The answer was becoming clear. Humanity had been planning this deception since the moment of first contact. Every humble smile, every grateful bow, every expression of awe at alien technology had been part of an elaborate intelligence operation. The species that had seemed so weak and helpless had been studying their supposed protectors like prey, animals studying predators. In the Federation's military academies, tactical instructors began revising their lessons about primitive species. The humans had demonstrated that technological advancement didn't necessarily correlate with military effectiveness. They had used the Federation's own arrogance against them, appearing weak while building strength in secret. The most disturbing realization was that if humanity had been deceiving them about their military capabilities, what else might they be hiding? How much of what the Federation thought they knew about humans was actually carefully crafted deception? As emergency meetings continued across the galaxy, one thing became clear. The balance of power had shifted in ways that nobody fully understood yet. The species that had been offered protection as a primitive civilization had revealed themselves to be something far more dangerous. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their hidden technology or their improved weapons. It was their ability to be completely underestimated by enemies who thought they understood what they were dealing with. The deception phase was coming to an end. Soon, the galaxy would see what humans were truly capable of when they stopped pretending to be weak. The mask falls. The transformation began simultaneously across 57 worlds throughout the galaxy. At precisely 1200 Universal Standard Time, every human agent, worker, and researcher dropped their facade of grateful servitude and revealed their true nature. The galaxy's most successful intelligence operation was coming to an end, and the reckoning was about to begin. On the Altari research station orbiting their homeworld, Dr. Kevin Walsh had spent 18 months playing the role of an eager human student, fascinated by alien technology and grateful for the opportunity to learn from his advanced teachers. The Altari scientists had grown fond of their enthusiastic pupil, amused by his simple questions and obvious awe at their achievements. Professor Velnari was explaining the principles of antimatter containment when Kevin suddenly interrupted him. Actually, Professor, your containment field has a critical flaw in its magnetic bottle design. The alien professor paused, his elongated features showing confusion. I'm sorry, Kevin. I don't understand what you mean. Kevin stood up, his demeanor completely changed from the humble student he had been moments before. The magnetic field generators create a resonance frequency that can be exploited. If you introduce a specific electromagnetic pulse at exactly 2.7 terahertz, the containment field will collapse in a cascade failure. As Kevin spoke, he activated a device that had been hidden in his clothing for months. The antimatter research facility's primary reactor began showing warning signs as its containment systems destabilized. Emergency alarms echoed through the corridors as the Altari scientists scrambled to prevent a catastrophic explosion. "How do you know this?" demanded Professor Velnari, his confidence shattered as he watched systems fail that should have been impossible for a primitive human to understand. "Because we've been studying your technology for 2 years," Kevin replied calmly as he sabotaged additional systems. "And we've found ways to make it better. Or, in this case, ways to make it fail exactly when we want it to." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as human agents revealed their true capabilities. The humble laborers in Corvani shipyards demonstrated that they understood the alien vessels better than their builders. Human researchers in Yilof laboratories began systematically destroying quantum computing networks that had taken centuries to develop. On dozens of worlds, the species that had seemed so grateful for protection was now dismantling the very civilization that had offered to help them. Fleet Admiral Kextera of the Wardani Collective received the first reports while reviewing routine patrol schedules in her command center. The initial messages seemed impossible to believe. Human workers across 3 star systems had simultaneously begun acts of sabotage that demonstrated technical knowledge far beyond what any primitive species should possess. "Sir, we're receiving emergency transmissions from the Rigel shipyards," reported her communications officer, his voice strained with disbelief. "The human workers have somehow disabled the primary construction bays and destroyed 6 partially completed battleships." Before Kextera could respond, more reports flooded in. The Altari research stations were going offline one by one. Corvani fleet bases were reporting massive system failures. Yilof communication networks were collapsing across entire sectors. The humans weren't just revealing their deception. They were actively crippling the Federation's military and technological infrastructure. "Get me a direct line to High Chancellor Mordan," Kextera ordered, but the response from her communications officer was devastating. "I can't, sir. The quantum communication network is down. Someone has systematically destroyed the primary relay stations." The scope of the human operation was becoming clear. This wasn't a spontaneous rebellion or a simple act of sabotage. This was a coordinated assault on galactic civilization that had been planned with military precision and executed with surgical accuracy. The humans had identified every critical vulnerability in Federation infrastructure and struck all of them simultaneously. The fleet arrives as reports of sabotage and system failures spread throughout the galaxy. Federation military commanders began to grasp the true scale of the threat they faced. The humans hadn't just been gathering intelligence and conducting sabotage, they had been preparing for war. The first sign came from the Outer Rim territories, where automated monitoring stations detected massive gravitational anomalies consistent with large fleets dropping out of hyperspace. The signatures were unlike anything in Federation databases, suggesting technology that combined familiar principles with innovations that no one had anticipated. Captain Zilvara of the Federation patrol vessel Eternal Vigilance was investigating distress calls from the Kepler station when her sensors detected something that shouldn't have existed. A human fleet of unprecedented size was emerging from hyperspace, their ships displaying technological capabilities that defied everything the Federation thought they knew about human civilization. "Captain, I'm reading over 200 vessels," reported her tactical officer, his voice filled with awe and terror. "They're using some kind of stealth technology. Our sensors can barely detect them, even though they're not trying to hide." The human ships were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They combined the best elements of alien technology with innovations that no Federation species had ever considered. Hulls that seemed to absorb sensor beams, weapons that fired projectiles at impossible velocities, and defensive systems that appeared to bend the laws of physics. This is Captain Sarah Mitchell of the Terran Defense Force, came a transmission from the lead human vessel. Federation ships in this sector, you are ordered to stand down and surrender immediately. Captain Zilvara couldn't believe what she was hearing. Human vessel, you cannot be serious. You are heavily outgunned and facing the full might of the Federation military. Captain, Sarah replied, her voice calm and professional, you are facing weapons and tactics that your military has never encountered. We are offering you one chance to surrender with honor. Don't force us to demonstrate why that would be wise. The Federation captain's response was immediate and predictable. All ships battle formation. Prepare to engage the human fleet. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations to come. The human ships didn't engage in the traditional space combat that Federation forces expected. Instead, they used tactics that seemed to violate every principle of civilized warfare. They attacked from multiple vectors simultaneously, used the Federation's own weapon signatures against them, and employed stealth technology that made them nearly impossible to target effectively. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it was over, the entire Federation patrol fleet had been either destroyed or captured, and the human ships had suffered minimal damage. Captain Zilvara found herself a prisoner aboard a human vessel, staring at technology that shouldn't have existed and facing enemies who had completely rewritten the rules of space combat. How? Was all she could manage to ask as human Marines escorted her to a detention area that was more comfortable than many Federation officer quarters. Commander Lisa Torres, the human officer processing the prisoners, smiled grimly. We've been watching you fight for 2 years, Captain. We know every tactic in your playbook, every weakness in your technology, and every mistake your commanders make. You've been fighting the same way for thousands of years. We learned to fight differently. The war begins. News of the fleet engagement spread throughout the Federation faster than their damaged communication networks should have allowed. Human cyber warfare specialists had infiltrated galactic information systems so thoroughly that they could control what information reached whom and when. The psychological impact was devastating. The Federation's most advanced military forces were being defeated by a species they had dismissed as primitive only days before. High Chancellor Mordun stood in the emergency command center that had been hastily established after the primary facilities were sabotaged. Around him, representatives from dozens of species tried to comprehend a situation that seemed impossible. The humans hadn't just revealed hidden military capabilities, they had demonstrated technological and tactical superiority that shouldn't have been achievable by any single species. Status report, Mordun demanded, though he dreaded the answer. General Caxel, his usual confidence replaced by barely controlled panic, consulted the tactical displays. We've lost contact with 17 major installations. The human sabotage operations were more extensive than we initially realized. Our fleet response capabilities are reduced by approximately 60%. What about our reserve forces? Asked Representative Vexera, her crystalline form flickering with nervous energy. The reserves are mobilizing, but our intelligence indicates that the humans have been tracking our fleet movements for months. They know exactly where our ships are and what capabilities they possess. The strategic situation was unprecedented in galactic history. A single species had somehow gained detailed intelligence on the military capabilities of dozens of advanced civilizations, sabotaged their infrastructure with surgical precision, and deployed a battle fleet that could defeat Federation forces using tactics that no one understood. Admiral Vexthor, who had witnessed the human victory over the Ravager fleet, offered his analysis. The humans haven't just been preparing for this war. They've been preparing to fight us specifically. Every weapon they've deployed, every tactic they've used has been designed to exploit our specific weaknesses. The revelation was staggering. Humanity hadn't been building a generic military force. They had been designing weapons and strategies specifically to fight the Galactic Federation, using the Federation's own confidence and openness against them. As emergency sessions continued, reports arrived of human forces advancing through Federation space with devastating efficiency. They didn't occupy territory like traditional conquerors. Instead, they systematically dismantled the Federation's ability to wage war, targeting command centers, supply lines, and communication networks with the precision of surgeons. They're not trying to conquer us, realized science advisor Yiloff. They're trying to cripple us completely. The human strategy was becoming clear. Rather than engaging in costly territorial wars, they were destroying the Federation's capacity to coordinate resistance. Each victory made the next one easier, as Federation forces found themselves isolated and unable to communicate with their command structure. The tide turns the Battle of Nexus Prime would later be remembered as the moment when the galaxy's balance of power shifted permanently. The Federation had assembled its largest fleet in history to defend their capital world, bringing together ships from every member species in a desperate attempt to stop the human advance. Fleet Admiral Morthek commanded over 800 vessels, representing the technological pinnacle of galactic civilization. His fleet included the newest Altari battleships, Corvani heavy cruisers, Yiloff quantum warfare vessels, and Wardani assault carriers. It was the most powerful military force ever assembled in galactic history. Facing them was Admiral Rebecca Martinez, commanding a human fleet of just 200 ships. To any objective observer, the outcome should have been predetermined. The Federation forces outnumbered the humans 4-1 and possessed weapons that had dominated galactic warfare for millennia. All fleet units, this is Admiral Morthek, came the transmission across Federation channels. Today, we end this human rebellion and restore order to the galaxy. For the Federation, the response from the human fleet was unexpected. Instead of battle cries or threats, Admiral Martinez transmitted a simple message that would echo throughout galactic history. For those who never saw it coming, the battle began according to Federation expectations, with massive ships of the line exchanging devastating energy weapons fire across the vacuum of space. But within minutes, it became clear that the humans were fighting an entirely different kind of war. Human vessels used swarm tactics that overwhelmed Federation targeting systems. They deployed weapons that seemed to phase through energy shields, striking vital systems directly. Most importantly, they demonstrated a level of coordination and tactical flexibility that no Federation fleet could match. Their ships are adapting to our weapons in real time, reported Morthek's tactical officer, his voice filled with disbelief. Every time we find a way to hurt them, they counter it within minutes. The truth was even more disturbing. Human technology hadn't just copied and improved upon alien designs. It had incorporated machine learning and adaptive systems that allowed real-time modification of tactics and technology during combat. The humans were literally evolving their capabilities faster than their enemies could adapt. As the battle raged, Federation ships began experiencing cascading system failures. The humans had somehow introduced computer viruses and logic bombs into Federation technology during their months of pretending to be harmless workers. Weapons systems turned on their own ships, navigation computers sent vessels into collision courses, and communication networks broadcast false orders. "This is impossible," Admiral Morthek whispered as he watched his flagship systems turn against him. "How can they control our technology remotely?" The answer came from Captain Elena Vasquez, whose ship had penetrated the Federation formation and was now broadcasting on all frequencies. "Every piece of technology we worked on, every system we helped maintain, every network we accessed, we left ourselves a way back in. You trusted us because you thought we were too primitive to be a threat. That trust just cost you the war." By the end of the battle, the Federation fleet had been completely destroyed or captured. Not a single human vessel had been lost, though several had suffered damage. The technological and tactical superiority demonstrated by humanity was so complete that resistance seemed futile. The new order in the aftermath of humanity's victory, the galaxy faced a new reality. The species that had been offered protection as primitive refugees had revealed themselves to be the most advanced and dangerous military force in galactic history. The Federation that had ruled for thousands of years lay in ruins, its fleets destroyed, and its infrastructure crippled. But the humans didn't behave like traditional conquerors. instead of demanding tribute or establishing occupation forces, they called for a gathering of all surviving alien leaders to negotiate a new galactic order. The meeting took place on Earth, in the same facility where first contact had occurred 3 years earlier. Representatives from dozens of alien species gathered in what had once been a simple diplomatic conference room, now transformed into the birthplace of a new era. President Rebecca Martinez stood before the assembled alien delegates, no longer the humble leader who had gratefully accepted Federation protection. She was now the representative of humanity, the species that had rewritten the rules of galactic civilization. "We didn't want this war," she began, her voice carrying clearly through translation systems that had been improved with human innovations. "We hoped that we could coexist peacefully with the Federation, contributing our unique perspectives while learning from your advanced civilizations." High Chancellor Mordun, one of the few surviving Federation leaders, spoke for the defeated alliance. "You deceived us from the beginning. Everything about your peaceful intentions was a lie." Martinez shook her head. "Our intentions were peaceful, but we're also not naive. We've studied your history, Chancellor. Every species that joined the Federation as a protected world eventually became a servant species. We decided that we would join the galaxy as equals or not at all. The terms that humanity offered were unprecedented in galactic history. Rather than demanding conquest or subjugation, they proposed a new form of galactic government based on genuine equality between species. Technology would be shared freely, military forces would be integrated under joint command, and no single species would dominate others. "Why?" asked Captain Thexera, who had first discovered humanity. "You have the power to rule the galaxy. Why offer us partnership instead of demanding our surrender?" Admiral Harrison, now serving as humanity's military representative, answered the question. "Because conquest was never our goal. We fought this war to prove that we couldn't be conquered, not to conquer others. The galaxy is big enough for all of us to prosper together." The negotiations continued for weeks as the framework of a new galactic civilization was established. The Human Federation would replace the old Galactic Federation, but with fundamental differences. Decision-making would be truly democratic, with each species having representation proportional to their population rather than their military power. Technology would be shared openly, preventing any single species from gaining overwhelming advantages. Most importantly, no species would be classified as primitive or in need of protection. Some alien species initially resisted the new order, but the alternative was clear. Humanity had demonstrated the ability to defeat any military force the galaxy could assemble. Their offer of partnership was generous, but it was also the only option available. The legacy 5 years after the war's end, the galaxy had been transformed beyond recognition. The new Human Federation governed over 4,000 star systems, with genuine cooperation between species that had once viewed each other as inferiors or threats. Technology advanced at unprecedented rates as human innovation combined with alien knowledge to create solutions that no single species could have achieved alone. Dr. Amanda Foster, now serving as the Federation's chief science advisor, stood in the research laboratory that had once been humanity's most classified facility. Around her, human and alien scientists worked together on projects that would have been impossible under the old system. "The quantum drive prototypes are exceeding all expectations," reported Dr. Silera, the Yiloth scientist who had once supervised human workers. "By combining human engineering principles with our quantum manipulation technology, we've achieved faster-than-light speeds that were previously theoretical." The irony wasn't lost on anyone present. The species that had once been dismissed as too primitive to understand advanced technology were now leading the development of innovations that surpassed anything the old Federation had achieved. On military bases throughout the galaxy, human and alien forces trained together, using tactics that incorporated the best elements of multiple military traditions. The Federation Defense Force was the most capable military organization in galactic history, not because of superior technology alone, but because it combined the strategic thinking of dozens of species. General Lisa Torres, now commanding the Federation's Tactical Development Division, reviewed reports from joint training exercises. The integration is proceeding better than we hoped, she told her staff, which included officers from 12 different species. It turns out that every species has something unique to contribute to military science. But perhaps the most significant change was cultural. The galaxy's species were learning to see each other as equals rather than as superiors or inferiors. Human concepts of individual rights and democratic governance were spreading throughout the Federation, while humans were adopting alien perspectives on art, philosophy, and science. Ambassador Thomas Reed, now serving as Earth's representative to the Federation Council, reflected on the transformation during a recent diplomatic gathering. 3 years ago, we were protected by species that saw us as primitive children. Today, we're partners working together to explore the galaxy's mysteries. The old Federation had been built on hierarchy and domination, with advanced species ruling over primitive ones. The new Human Federation was built on the radical idea that every intelligent species had value and deserved respect, regardless of their technological level or military power. As humanity's ships explored new regions of the galaxy, they encountered species that the old Federation had either ignored or classified as too primitive for contact. Under the new system, these civilizations were welcomed as potential partners rather than dismissed as insignificant. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about the dangers of underestimating others. The species that had seemed weakest had proven to be the most dangerous, not because of superior weapons or technology, but because they had been underestimated so completely that they could prepare for war in plain sight. But more importantly, the galaxy had discovered that cooperation between equals was more powerful than domination by superiors. The Human Federation was achieving things that the old Federation had never imagined possible, simply because it harnessed the full potential of every member species. The humans had taught the galaxy that true strength came not from ruling over others, but from working together as equals. It was a lesson that would shape galactic civilization for generations to come. In the end, humanity's greatest victory wasn't military or technological. It was proving that a galaxy of equals could achieve more than a galaxy of rulers and servants. The species that had been offered protection as primitives had become the guardians of a new age of cooperation and mutual respect. The quiet species had spoken, and the galaxy had listened to the end.